Hi, science class. I'm going to throw these little quick notes together for anyone that needs extra help and kind of get a little bit more of a teaching touch to chapter 13 and this whole unit D where we need a need for safety. The whole goal for this unit is to add a little bit of insight and a little bit of awareness on the dangers and why we need to be safe in and around motor vehicles and why they can be so dangerous. The whole focus is soon, or potentially you already are, you might be driving around and you need to have kind of a little bit of awareness and understanding of how dangerous road vehicles can actually be. So I know we can't actually watch this in class, and it is kind of a cool one, but if you want to, with this slide, please feel free to search up the actual video on YouTube. It's about 10 minutes long, I think. And I think you search Ken Block, and he does his kind of extreme stunts, and he does all his power braking and does everything with his drifting. Kind of a cool video, and of course, definitely do not do this because you don't have a specialized car like he does, and yeah, definitely he is on a closed circuit. So something fun to watch, but definitely don't try this on your own. This opening chapter is all about how to analyze information and take information and data and kind of put it all together. And when we come up to the quiz, we're going to kind of come to this realization that most accidents are preventable. And most accidents are more than just falling off your bike or falling down some stairs where you get some bumps and bruises. When you have a road collision, chances are there's going to be some very serious injuries. And I have this little stat that you are 50% more likely to die in a road collision than an airplane mishap. It all comes down to thinking, okay, there is a lot more vehicle travel and a lot more people traveling in cars than there actually is flying. So, of course, those statistics kind of offset because there's just so many more drivers. But at the same time, there is also so many more drivers out there that are very unsafe, making it a little bit more dangerous. And so, my general rule is you might be the best driver. However, can you guarantee that the other drivers are just as safe as you? You can never guarantee what other people are doing. You can always control what you can do is to the best of your possibilities and driving the safest you can. So you have to make sure and be aware because not everyone else might be that aware. When we actually look at all these numbers, we can actually go through all these total collisions and we kind of look at some of these trends. And so I want you to just pause this video and try to answer some of those questions I posted about Alberta traffic collisions from 1995 to 1999. Good. Hopefully you had a chance to answer some of those questions. Now, this is why I threw together the video, because what do these slides kind of show you? If you're just clicking through this as your notes, it doesn't tell you much. But here you can see what happens with the dangers of traveling at very high speeds and not being aware always of your circumstances. And the one that really rings true is when you're driving, and especially in Canada, with the picture on the right, you can see that someone hit a moose. The most dangerous thing about moose is they're very, very tall. And when you take out the legs of the moose, the main mass of their body is right at driver's height. And so something definitely to be careful about is wildlife coming and running across the street, because that's something that's completely unpredictable and you need to be sure you're ready to react. Here again is another little video to watch, and it's this kind of crazy car crashes caught on camera. So if you search that on YouTube, you can watch all the footage. And with this invention called a dash cam, it seems like we get a lot of these little videos where it's kind of bad driving gone wrong. So another little fun thing about all the bad things or what can actually go wrong in motor cars. The big thing we're going to be talking about is injuries and how many people are actually injured in vehicle crashes every year. And you can see from the list posted, and so pause it as you are taking notes, but you can kind of write a summary of all these injuries that you already know. And it's like, oh yeah, what are cuts and bruises? Or as we're figuring things out, I'm going to talk more about what whiplash or burns are, but all of these injuries can range from small little scrapes to very serious traumatic injuries. Whenever we come across these slides, please do check your understanding. This is just simply for your own skill testing ability. Read through them. Can you answer them in your head? You don't necessarily need to actually pause and write these ones down, but think, can you actually stop and check your understanding? Here we would have had a fun little kind of in-class lab where we were going to actually test reaction time and how to actually see how it works in real life and real time kind of in a controlled setting. So reaction time is any amount of time it takes you to actually react to a situation. So if you wanted to try this at home or if you wanted to try it with a friend, please take out like a ruler and something where you won't kind of really cut your hand on, because one person is going to drop the ruler between your thumb and your pointer finger, and you're going to try to clamp down on it when they drop it at a random time. And so they'll just hold the ruler over your hand and they'll just drop it whenever, and you have to kind of measure how fast you can actually pinch your fingers together and clamp onto that ruler, and you can measure how fast and how much it takes to react. The next part is this, you can see with distractions. So distractions might be maybe you're trying to text while someone's going to drop the ruler, or maybe they're going to hold a conversation, or maybe they're going to make you do math problems, and they're going to give you distractions, anything that kind of takes your attention away. Other distractions to simulate, it might be spin around in a circle 10 times. And again, make sure you have a friend and you're in a safe location so you don't fall over. But this might simulate being impaired or under the influence of something where you're not quite 100% capacity. And so if you spin around 10 times and then try to do it almost immediately, you're going to notice how your coordination has been affected. And these are kind of anything that will distract. So if you would like, try to set it up as you can, like you see in the picture, with you and someone else, and then test out your reaction time, and then test out with different types of distractions. Here I'm just going to run through some other types of distractions that will typically happen that are a little bit harder to test in that last slide. Here, fatigue, or just being sleepy and just being tired, and where you have an impairment, it's not through any kind of drug or alcohol or anything like that, but just being sleepy and tired, well, all of a sudden you might start drifting off, because sometimes when you're driving out on a highway and it's those big long stretches where it's just straight road and it's the same thing, the mind tends to wander, and if you're very tired, sometimes people do actually fall asleep. Here, drugs, as you can see, not all drugs are going to be illegal drugs. It can be prescription drugs, and they will have warnings on them that these drugs may cause drowsiness or dizziness, and it leads to an impairment. Of course, we also know alcohol causes impairments, and we shouldn't be drinking and driving. And the same thing with now recreational drugs, such as marijuana. It is illegal to actually drive under the influence of these types of drugs, and they have drug tests, because if you're starting to drive erratically, or there could be a random check stop, you can get tested and pulled over, and then you can lose your license for driving under the influence. When talking about drugs, we're going to classify them under two types of categories: stimulants and depressants. We're not going to classify drugs as either illegal or recreational or whatever it might be. We're going to classify them on the actual effects that they have. So some drugs, like caffeine, will actually be a stimulant, where it will actually pick up your heart rate, it wakes you up, it speeds you up. However, it kind of sets your body under a fake stress, because you're not actually stressed, but it's increasing different things and it's stimulating you to maybe potentially react faster. This is good, but not always good, because, well, too much and it might actually hurt you. And same thing with caffeine, you can't just keep drinking more and more caffeine, because it's putting your body under this artificial stress and it can have other side effects. The same thing with depressants. Some drugs, like I mentioned before, will lead to that drowsiness or sleepiness, and it's slowing down the messages between your body and brain. And so alcohol is the big typical example of a depressant, and it helps with impairments. And you can see from the image where it just kind of slows everything down, and it's not depressing you like we hear about depression, but it's depressing and it's suppressing how fast you're actually able to react to some things, and your body can't always sense or respond to it very quickly. Talking about alcohol in the blood system as a depressant, we have this blood alcohol concentration, or BAC sometimes. What we actually have is BAC of 0.08 means there is 0.08 milligrams of alcohol in 1 milliliter of blood. And so you can see from this chart on average about how much weight versus how many drinks and what your estimated blood alcohol content would be. So obviously, as you are larger and have more body mass, it will take more alcohol to concentrate all the blood just because you actually have more physical blood. However, you can also see the length of time and how long it will actually take when you look up some of these charts. So you might want to Google search blood alcohol graphs and charts, and you can kind of get a clear image. This is kind of the better one I could find, and you can see how long it might take to actually get out of your system. In Alberta, the actual legal limit now is 0.05, and there's going to be restrictions based off of that. The Canadian kind of limit that was set is a maximum of 0.08. So just kind of side little notes of detail. Now, what happens with these injuries? We're coming back to these injuries. And so some of these collisions will cause physical trauma, and it can also cause emotional trauma too. So trauma doesn't just have to be physical, it can be physical or emotional, and it's the results that happen from an accident. And so we can have a wide range of different injuries. Another key term that we're going to talk about is grief, because sometimes just dealing with the fact after, depending on what happened, it's hard to actually adjust and process what actually happened through the collision. And it can be a wide range of, well, being fearful to even drive again, or fearful to be in a passenger role again, or you're going through something where it's just harder to actually manage day to day because of something else bad that might have happened. And it's usually a professional who will help you deal and get over extreme cases of grief. With these injuries, we also want to talk about protection and prevention, and how do we actually protect and prevent some of these injuries. Here you can see these 4 different safety features that all cars now really have, and you can see kind of the data and how it actually shows using seat belts to actually help prevent serious injuries. And not only serious injuries, it even helps prevent fatalities. And so when you normally would have had something or a collision that would have caused fatalities, now we're seeing injuries, and it's much rather have people injured than actually having these fatalities. Another couple cool videos, and it's just little interesting tidbits on how we actually test safety features in cars. And you can see airbags deploying or roll cages deploying, and there's videos of airbags versus no airbags, and how crash test dummies actually help lead to a lot of science and safety in cars. Another quick little point about safety and prevention is regular car. So some of the things that you're supposed to be checking just as a safe driver is things like your tires and making sure you have proper tires for the road conditions. Very big for Alberta and winter driving, making sure you actually have enough tread left on your tires, things you can actually maintain. Steering fluid, right? You can check your steering and making sure they're working properly, or windshield wipers when it's snowy or rainy, you need to be able to see to drive. All of these things are just part of regular maintenance and part of car ownership. Other examples of how to protect yourself on the road is rumble strips, and you'll see these little rumble strips to warn you that a stop sign is coming up. We have guardrails, or we have lights that break away, or we have pedestrian lights to tell us when pedestrians want to cross the road. There is many safety features when you go out driving the next time you look around and wonder, oh, interesting, you see them on Deerfoot. You see these barriers to help prevent crossing over and causing a bigger accident than what would normally happen if they were not there. So next time you're out driving in a car, try to see what little things are out around the road that might actually aid to your safety. This one I liked because this is just a quick little color blindness test. And can you actually see the different numbers and letters in the symbols below? And so depending if you can or can't, you might have a color blindness. So what you should see is in that first top left square, you should see 58. The next one on the top right is 18. Next, you should see on that bottom left hand side, you should see a purple L, or you can kind of see the shadowings of an E, and there is actually a little bit of orange in there to make it an L is purple, or the full letter is an E. And then lastly, it is number 17 in the bottom right. If you don't see it all, maybe you need to go get your eyes checked because there might be a partial color blindness. So as I was doing this, I found another one where you can kind of link it up, and depending on what you see, or potentially maybe it's just the color on the monitor or on the video, depending on that too, that could always be the issue, there is different vision tests. And so here, number 1, you can kind of see the numbers that you should see. So normal color vision, in circle A, you should see a 29. In B, you should see a 45. C, you should see nothing. And D, you should see number 26. However, if you do have a red-green color blindness, a red color blindness, or green color blindness, you can see how A might change up, or B, C, or D changes depending if you have a certain type of color blindness. And so you can quick do a little test, and then yeah, if you get a test, maybe ask about the DMV and they'll do these kind of tests too, and go see your optometrist. Maybe you have a type of color blindness. So here you can see an image of a road, and a little kind of test question that could pop up is what could be some of the safety features that we actually need to see. So as you kind of go through, what safety features do you see on this road, and how do they actually make the roadway safe? So take some time, work through the safety features, and would you add any safety features? I do like to show this because I remember when I was in classes, I went to a party program or the DARE program, and they talked about the safety of drinking and driving. So you can search this up. This is TAC. This went to air in Australia, and it is very graphic. So please do not search on your own. Be with someone because it could spark or rise up emotional content. So please be careful when viewing this. But it does ring very true, and this has led to a lot of decrease of drinking and driving with Australian drivers. So from here, please take time to work through the assignment. Please take time to make your study notes and message me when you're ready to write the quiz. Thank you and have a great day.